contract, which can be gotten on the web at mybillionyearcontract.com. And she's also will sign anybody's copy of the book here if anyone has any copies they'd like signed. Nancy has been very high up in organized Scientology, was one of my co-authors of their first book on what is Scientology. And then let me just read you a little blurb about Nancy. She was involved in many areas of Scientology for almost 30 years, from their secret espionage units to working directly as an aide to L. Ron Hubbard, to spending 6 years overseeing the celebrities of Scientology. When she was trying to fix the doubt that she had about the group, they did nothing but greatly harassing her, driving her to great emotional distress. With the breakdowns that she had, she turned it around, she got herself out of it, and she has spent the last several years helping people that have had major mental breakdowns because of organized Scientology get on their feet again. And I highly recommend her book because it tells a story like I've never seen being told, and in such depth. Anyway, I'd like to welcome Nancy, and she's going to tell you a little bit about her book, and I think also about what it's like to be a pregnant woman of 5 months in a rehabilitation project colony where you're living in a garage and being abused by Scientology, and she lived it. So Nancy.
Hey guys, this actually has a double special meaning for me because my very first organization that I joined was the Boston organization when it was in Kenmore Square. Don't know if anybody remembers it, but we actually were in Kenmore Square. And my first job was selling books here on the Commons, on Boston Commons. So to come back around in a circle, and here's my book, that I've been there, went in, found out everything about it, and I'm out. I'm probably, I do not know of anyone else that worked espionage, deep cover espionage, where you go into a company as if you're not yourself. For both the Guardian's office that ended in the FBI raid and people going to prison, and the current RTC who says we don't do this anymore. But I know from personal experience, I spied for them for 2.5 years, and they do it still. They just raided Italy.org and found all their secret espionage files. So it's not changed. It's gotten worse, and the volume's gone up. The Rehabilitation Project Force I wanted to talk to you guys about today because no one believes it. Whenever I bring up that there is and are camps across the world where people are kept under guard at all times, they are not allowed free access, they are not allowed to talk to anyone. And when I was in it, I was pregnant, and that was disgusting. And the second time they sent me to it, my son was 2 years old. And they tried to get me to abandon my son so my husband and I could do the RPF together. And I'm like, oh, well, I have no family here, so we'll just figure it out. And people would sit down with me and tell me that children are just adults in little bodies. They're thetans and they know everything. So, you know, he'll make it, he'll do fine at 2.5 years old. He's okay to be on his own in the city of Los Angeles. And my husband and I escaped. Luckily, this was pre-video camera everywhere time, and we were able to escape and get our son out of the daycare center. I met with people later. When I was in the Rehabilitation Project Force, the longest time I knew of somebody being in was a year, 12 months, and that was considered unusual. Like, what are you doing? Why don't you just get out of here? An old friend of mine, Chuck Beatty got out, and he is like the most innocuous person you could ever meet. I mean, he was the course supervisor, he was everybody's friend, he never rocked the boat, never got into trouble, and when we contacted again, he had done the RPF. And he had done this Rehabilitation Project Force, which is essentially a thought reform camp. You do not get out until your thoughts have changed. And you're thinking with whatever the party line is which while you're in there, it might change, which adds time to your visit there. And he said to me, he said, oh, I was in for 8 years. And that's about average now, 6 to 8 years. And now they make you disconnect. You are not only not allowed to speak to your spouse or your children, but a lot of people are made to divorce without having the opportunity to talk to their spouse. They're just handed papers, sign this, to divorce their spouse because it's going on too long. And I asked him what the difference was from the years that I was in it. And he says, well, there's better food.